Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us here with Lost Lion Film Studios and Mr. Jim Hackett here, who is playing the role in the upcoming film called 72 Hours of Lieutenant Park.
Yeah, that's right. You got me covered on that one.
Welcome. Welcome. How you doing today, Jim?
Couldn't be better. Life is good. Life is pretty good in the Midwest right now. That's where I'm hanging out in Indianapolis. I got some work here, and as soon as that's done, back to LA.
All right. Glad to hear you're staying busy.
All good.
All right. Well, Jim, I'm gonna jump right into it and get you started here. I wanted to know a little bit more about you and the role. But let's start at the very beginning where it all happened. When you first were awarded the role, how did you feel and what was going through your mind?
Well, it came as a real surprise. I got a phone call from the director, Che Loran, and I didn't know him, and he'd never met me. And he called me up and said, "Hey, listen, we're looking to cast this character in this film," and he briefly ran over what it was, and very cool part. You know, an actor can get their hands on a good part like this. You go, "Oh, that sounds very interesting." And he said, "Well, okay, if you want to do it, I've got recommendations that you can hit your mark and say your lines." So, so I said, "Yeah, let's go for it." I'm very pleased to do it without a screen test or without having to do an on-camera audition, which was really kind of cool. That's really the really exception rather than rule these days, as you might imagine with actors. You have to go through several callbacks and a whole bunch of other silliness. And Che seemed to have some confidence in me, so we went with it, and I think it came out really great.
That's awesome. Yeah, it'd be real nice to just bypass all that back and forth talk. They know what they want, they like it, they see it, and they just go for it. So awesome, Jim, that you were able to make that. So take me through a day of what it's like to be the character, Lieutenant Park, that you're playing in this film. What goes through your mind setting up, getting into the character to start your day on scene?
Well, one of the things that appealed to me about this character was he's not all he's cracked up to be. He starts out as a kind of a bureaucratic jerk. He's a typical police administrator. He's got a bunch of stuff on his mind. He's got this one detective who he actually has had a relationship with his father back in the day. He and his father were father and my character were partners back several years ago, and they were in a radio car together. They did a lot of cop work together. And my background as an actor in California, for about 32 years, I worked as a reserve deputy with LA County Sheriff's Department. So I know a lot about cops. I know a lot of cops. I've seen a lot of stuff. And this thing really rang true to me. I think that's why Che went ahead and said, "Hey, you're right for this role because you have some police experience." And in the police department, the sheriff's department in LA, and with the LAPD, you run across these characters that are the greatest guys you ever want to meet. I mean, some of the most rock solid, serious, honest people you ever want to meet. And it's kind of like what Mick Jagger said in one of his tunes. You either be a cop or a criminal, and or a priest, one of the three.
Yeah.
I knew some cops who were dirty. I saw the work. I saw the kind of stuff they did, and it always boggled my mind because 98% of the cops, 99% of the cops that I've worked with are straight up loyal and really want to do the best job they can. So this character had some flaws that aren't revealed actually to the end of the film, and so it was a great thing for an actor to work on a character that has those kind of fatal flaws and doesn't want to reveal them. Wants to stay the hard ass, be the big supervisor, kind of lord it over his troops, and that's who this guy was. And I knew this character pretty well because I knew somebody who was almost exactly like that when I was in the sheriff's department.
Which is perfect because that leads me into my next question. I was going to ask, did you draw inspiration from another character in a movie or a person? But it sounds like your life is kind of a character in its own that kind of lived through that. Is that where you drew a lot of your characters? But you said he was a jerk. So,
Yeah, he kind of pompous, kind of full of himself, kind of he loves bossing people around. He loves being the center of attention. So yeah, I drew a lot of characterizations from the people I'd worked with back in the past. And for an actor, you've got to find a hook. You got to find something that you can hang your hat on, that your character rings true. And when you put it in front of the camera, it's got to be sincere. It's got to be true, and you have to believe it as well too. I'm a big believer in preparation as an actor. I mean, I work my ass off with a character, with a small part and a large part. I've done a lot of film work. I've worked in a lot of television stuff. Back in the day, I did a lot of sitcom work and a lot of commercials too. I mean, even with a commercial, when you've got a lot of lines and you got to repeat it over and over and over again, you better remember what you're doing. Otherwise, you're not going to work again.
Yeah.
The worst you can do is get on set and be there with an unprepared actor, somebody who hasn't done homework, doesn't know their lines, doesn't understand how to work with a camera or with other actors. That can be really, really frustrating. It's happened to me. It didn't happen to me on this film, fortunately, but it happened in the past. And there's a great book by Michael Caine. It's called Blow the Bloody Doors Off. And he talks about what an actor should be doing on set and what he shouldn't be doing. And one of the things you can't do is, and you shouldn't do, is if an actor's having a hard time or he's being unprofessional or you just sense that something's wrong, something's off, it's not your job as an actor to correct the guy or say something or blow up or walk off the set and be a prima donna. It's really the director's job. That's his job to corral the actors, make sure they do their work, and a lot of cases too as an actor. And I saw this on this film because it was very fast paced. We did a lot of pages every day, and that's really the true mark of a professional. If you can just get it out and get it done. We had a great cinematographer. I'm trying to remember his name right now. But he was the kind of guy that wouldn't be shy about saying, "Hey, Jim, listen, your frame is a little off. Move a little to the left in the camera, or stick your head up here a little bit and turn to the left when you say that line." That really helps you too. The mechanics of film acting really help as well. So 72 Hours was a joy to work on. The actors were prepared. We actually had some guys. We had one or two people on our film that just blew me away. Our lead character played Jay Schaefer, a guy by the name of Brandon Benton. This guy he was spot on. I was very, very impressed with his work. When you get thrown into a scene with an actor you've never worked before and you're on a fast-paced schedule, and he already has his character defined, you know who he is exactly when he walks on the set and when he says his first line, and he's able to work with you back and forth. I mean, that's just gold. And that happened on this film. We had a really good chemistry going between myself and Jay, who's the lead character.
Well, it seems like you've adapted to that father figure role very quite well in your career.
Well, thanks. I appreciate that. Father figures are a dime a dozen in the acting business, but there's one guy I remember in particular, John Gielgud, a famous English actor. He's sitting around the set one day, and the PA comes up to him and says, "Look, I'm so sorry, Sir Gielgud. We've had all these problems with the set and the camera, we're putting up the lightings. You've had to wait around, and it's really been pretty embarrassing for us." And Gielgud says, "My dear boy, they pay me a lot of money to sit around and wait. That I do for free."
I guess that just points more to the reason if you do what you love, it's not acting. It's just you being part of the world and loving it. So those are great. It's a great word of advice and a great thing to live by, I'd say.
Yeah.
What did you enjoy the most about being on a set? I know every set's different, and you said this one was a very fast paced. You had a really good crew to work with. What was some of your best takeaways from being on the set, and maybe some of your least favorite moments of being on the set?
Well, I'm very fortunate over the years to work with some pretty big stars. I had a guest starring role on Life with Lucy. It was actually Lucille Ball's last television show she ever did, and I played a minister, a small part. And I got to know her very briefly in rehearsals. She really didn't say too much to me. Just hello, hi, how you doing, whatever. And because it was her last show, she was having some problems. She was ill actually, and we were all very concerned if she could make it through the entire show because in television back in the 80s, you did a full show right in front of a live audience, kind of like a theater presentation as well. And they said to the other actors, Audrey Meadows was my co-star too. She was phenomenal as well. The director said, "Look, Miss Ball is working on cue cards, and you guys got to know your lines. You got to hit your mark right away and get it done. Because if you mess up or forget a line or do something stupid or miss your mark, it's really going to throw everybody off. We're not going to be happy." So we're all nervous. It's all get out. So we get it in front of the audience, and man, everybody nailed it. Lucille Ball came on, and boom, she was right there. And she comes up to me, and this is all unscripted, and she goes, "Reverend Hackett." And she calls me by a real name. "Hey, Reverend Hackett,
Okay.
how are you? Hello, hello, hello." I'm marrying her daughter in the show. Well, that just blew me away. That's probably one of my greatest experiences on a Hollywood set. Some of the worst experience I've had. I can't name any names, but I had a major star get very, very, very mad at me, and it wasn't my. But you have to sit back and smile and say, "Well, okay, well, I'm sorry you feel that way, but
Yeah.
wasn't me." I can't own up to who actually did this stupid thing, but those things happen, and as part of your career as an actor, as you go through life, you experience these things. Now, on 72 Hours, let's get back to the picture we're promoting here. Um, we had a very fast-paced schedule. We had shootouts, we had uh, fights, we had crowd scenes, we had stuff going on, and because of the fast pace of it, the actors had to be right on the point. And everybody did a great job. I got to single out Christopher Anastasio. He played Al Gianelli, great character. Jason Berner, he was Rudy McKay. He's one of the bad guys in the film. He was outstanding as well too. And then Sierra Malik, beautiful lady, a terrific actress, and I think you're going to see a lot more of her. She was just outstanding as well. And there was a bunch of other actors in the film that did a really good job. But I really enjoyed myself. I think Shea Loran has a great thing going with Lost Lion Films, and I expect to see a lot more good things out of this film company.
As do I. I've been following Lost Lion Studios for a while now, and they've just only been growing and growing and growing more and more and more every time I see it. New projects left and right. So I think they got really good direction for themselves here.
Absolutely.
Now, with 72 hours, was there a scene that you enjoyed the most, or a scene that you found was most difficult for your character to portray as Lieutenant Park?
Well, I mentioned we had a shootout. We actually had
Yeah,
a couple, and whenever you're doing something like that with firearms, it can get a little hairy in the sense that everybody's looking at you. And I've had a lot of experience with firearms. I was in the Marine Corps, for goodness sakes. I spent 2 tours in Vietnam, so I know my way around firearms. So you have to be very careful. You can't be a cowboy. You can't do things that are not in reality, especially as an actor. I mean, you don't want to go, "Oh," and have this big death scene and fall down. So that's one of the things you got to watch out for as an actor, is to try and be as real as you can. If you have some experience with it, then bring that to the table and let the director know. And sometimes the director has his own concept of how he wants it to go, but you as an actor certainly have the right to bring up a suggestion. "Hey, what about this? What about that?" Well, uh, basically with Darnice, who was the co-director on this piece, and Shay, I said, "Hey, listen, I think this would work versus that. I said, go for it, make it happen." So I felt very, very comfortable with that as well too. So I don't want to give away the denouement of the film, but the
yeah, of
ending is
course, of
pretty
course.
hairy. And I think we pulled it off very well at 3 o'clock in the morning in a park and somewhere in the land. I still don't know where I was.
Well, so you were saying working with Shay and then the co-director, they were very receptive also to if you had ideas. Were they adaptive, or were they pretty set on how it needed to be, or were they open to change?
Well, yeah, they certainly were open to suggestions.
That's what I mean, suggestions, yes.
They were, but as an actor, you come into a film set with some preconceived ideas about the character and how you're going to play it. And a good director will always let the actor do it his way to start with. And there's a basis to work with here. And if the actor's a little bit off, that's where the director would come in and say, hey, listen, you ought to try this, or maybe, lower your voice here, or don't get so excited here, do what you have to do. That's really his job. And, personally, I think 95, 98% of film success is casting. You
Yeah.
got to have the, I mean, there's so many examples over the years of people who have had these terrific, wonderful parts and just kind of blow it just by trying to be a method actor or just trying to bring their unique personality into the thing. You got to just go with your heart and take direction. That's really, really important. So on 72 hours, yeah, I came in with some preconceived ideas. I wanted to wear my firearm a certain way. And he said, yeah, great. That's a great idea. I was able to bring some handcuffs and a few other cop things along with me that I was very familiar with. So that really helped me get into the character. But there were some times when we were doing a fast-paced scene. We had this one scene, a running scene on a street where we had to run up to a house and do a bunch of other things. And I got some really good direction with that, particularly from the cinematographer and from Darnice about how to play it, how to look, and how to turn to camera. And an editor these days, because film is so fast-paced, uh, you have to be kind of like not only a director but an editor as well.
Yeah.
Keep thoughts in your mind and how this is going to work, how this is going to play against each other. Because without that, you're going to have like a heck of a time putting the film together.
Oh, yeah. If you're not thinking as how a film would look and editing, you're not gonna be able to get the right shots, angles, all that sorts of stuff. So it's above my pay grade, obviously. But as the role as Lieutenant Park, what do you want for the audience when they are watching the film to take away as your character or take away from the film? Is there a message that you'd like that you put into your character that it could be received differently, or how do you want them walking out of the theater after watching that film?
Well, because I'm not considering myself a lead actor in this film. I do the leading part. It's a very intrinsic to the whole story, but it's not the main situation.
Hmm.
But it has a lot to do with what happens with the lead character and what happens at the end of the film, and how it progresses. So uh, I think the best compliment an actor could get would be, hey, I understood where you're coming from. I followed the story. I I could see from what you were doing or how you were acting that it was leading toward a certain thing. And if I could bring that to the audience with a performance, hey, I've done my job.
Of course. Are we gonna see you in some many more Lost Lion Film Studio projects coming up here?
I hope so. Shay's talked to me about one or two parts. He's got several films in the works here. He's a busy guy, and he's working on both coasts. So I'm very happy to work with him again. Crawl over broken glass to do the next film with him. He's to work with as an actor, and he surrounds himself with good people too. And that not only casting is important, but the people that are behind the camera, the people that are handling what's going on, doing all the kind of homework that has to go. What's on the call sheet? Who's doing what? Where are we going to be? What's going to happen? That is so important to get it done right. And he's done a remarkable job with that, given his budget and given the time frame of what's going on. So yeah, Jay, go for it, bud. Doing great.
Well, Jim, that's all the questions that I do have here for you. Is there anything that you want to reflect on or touch on before we part our ways here?
Well, the most I guess the thing I really enjoy most of all working as an actor is working with younger actors. I'm an old guy. I'm in my early 70s, so I've been around for a while. And when I'm on set, if somebody has an issue or a problem or they just can't seem to get it, I don't mind, kind of throwing my arm around and say, hey, come on over here. Don't take this so seriously. It's not the end of the world. You're going to do fine. Just relax and just get into what you're doing, and think about your training. Think about what you've done in the past. I think that really helps as well too, because I love to encourage people. The acting business is very, very tough. It is just a horrible way to try and make a living.
Yeah.
And you're fortunate enough to be a working actor, which I've been for the last 40 years or so. And I've made a living at it. That's quite an accomplishment. I'm not a big name. I've never tried to be a big name. I've been on some big shows. I've met some big stars. I was on Dallas. I was on Benson for 4 years on ABC. I produced my own shows. Oh, that's one other thing you got to do too as an actor these days. Content is king. If you have a chance to make your own media, whatever it is, a short, a brief little film, do what you have to do to get that done and get it out there. Because if you don't work at your craft and you sit around and wait for the phone to ring, it's not going to ring, and you're going to be a very sad camper. So get out there and work hard, and continue to work on your craft. Take classes, training. It's so very important. Do theater. Theater is great. I started in theater, and maybe one day I'll wind up in theater. I do love it, but film work is great, and if I can help somebody else with it, I'd be happy to do it.
You adapted into that father role for actors very well then.
Yeah, well, it's fun to do, and very gratifying, and there's nothing like it. I mean, there's an old story about Gielgud, one of the great English actors. He was sitting around on the set one day, and the PA come up to him and said, "Hey, Sir John Gielgud, we're so sorry that it's taken us hours to set up the lights, and the craft service, we haven't been able to bring it in here. I'm so sorry you've had to sit around for these hours." And Gielgud's response, "Well, my dear boy, um, they pay me a lot of money to sit around free. In the acting, I don't spend any money on acting. They pay me just to be here. The acting I do for free." Now I really messed that joke up, so I'd
Yeah.
like to go back and tell it again. I think you get the gist
We
of it.
get the point of it, yeah.
I'll ascribe to that any day of the week. The acting I do for free these days.
If you love what you do, it doesn't feel like work, and it seems like you do love this and you've made your life out of it, and very, very well established too, and you're only beginning. You're only keep going, and you only keep soaring until you can act no more.
You got that right.
All right. Well, Jim, everyone else that's watching, please make sure to follow, like, subscribe to Lost Lion Studios, and keep up with all their content. Or obviously, as you talked to Mr. Jim here, Shay is putting out quite a few projects, so stay on the lookout for those as well. Jim, it was a pleasure talking with you today. Thank you for taking your time out of your day to talk to us about your upcoming show, 72 hours. Sorry, film, 72 hours to be released here shortly. So, thank you, Jim, and you have a wonderful day.
You too. Thanks, boss.